Hey everyone, welcome back. Today we're doing a deep dive into the McKinsey Edge by Shu Hattori.
Oh, yeah, this is a good one. I think our listeners are really going to enjoy this.
Yeah, it's packed with insights into how McKinsey consultants work and lead, but it's not just for consultants. There's some great advice in here for anyone who wants to level up their career and even their personal life.
I think what's so interesting is how the book really emphasizes building a strong foundation. It starts with a whole set of principles for personal development, and they're not what you'd expect. It all begins with like this laser focus on what really matters.
It's about being ruthlessly efficient with your time and energy. Like, think about your own top three priorities in work or life. Are you actually giving them the attention they deserve? Or are you getting bogged down in things that don't move the needle?
McKinsey consultants, they're masters of prioritization. And Hattori says we should do the same. Identify those must-do tasks and tackle them head-on.
He even suggests starting with the hard stuff in the morning. That's a tough one for me. I don't know about you.
It does go against the grain a bit, doesn't it?
Yeah, I'm definitely more of a procrastinator when it comes to those challenging tasks. But Hattori says that getting them done early sets you up for success. I was surprised he says something like 80% of successful CEOs wake up before 6 a.m. So maybe there's something to that whole early bird thing after all.
Well, it makes sense when you think about it. Our minds are sharper in the morning, our body temperature is lower, and we're generally less distracted.
So you're saying if I'm struggling to focus on those complex tasks, try shifting my schedule.
Yeah, it's worth a try. See what happens when you front load your day with the tough stuff. You might be surprised how much you can accomplish.
Food for thought. Have you tried this yourself?
I have, actually. And I have to admit, it does make a difference. I find that I'm much more focused and productive in the mornings, and it's such a relief to get those challenging tasks out of the way early. It really frees up my mental energy for the rest of the day.
That's really encouraging to hear. Another principle that stood out to me was catch small signals and make a difference. Hattori tells this great story about a McKinsey consultant who noticed that a client was struggling with their English speech, so the consultant offered to help even though it wasn't directly related to the project.
And it made a huge impression.
Yeah, it was one of those small gestures that goes a long way.
Right. It's about being observant, anticipating needs.
Taking initiative.
Exactly. It's those small gestures that often make the biggest difference, both in building relationships and in demonstrating your value.
So it's not just about the big deliverables.
Nope. It's about those small acts of service that can set you apart.
Now, one thing that's synonymous with McKinsey is their emphasis on clear, concise communication.
Oh, absolutely.
And this is reflected in the principle of the 30-second answer.
Being able to articulate your ideas, your expertise succinctly and persuasively. Basically, your elevator pitch. What's your value proposition?
In 30 seconds or less.
Right. So it's about distilling your message down to its essence.
What would you say are the key elements of a compelling 30-second answer?
Well, it needs to be clear, concise, and engaging. You need to capture the listener's attention, convey your key message, and leave them wanting more. It's a skill that takes practice, but it's so valuable.
I'm definitely going to challenge myself to craft my own 30-second answer. Now, let's talk about getting ahead of the game. The book emphasizes the importance of front-loading your project to make a strong first impression.
And to stay ahead of the curve.
Right. McKinsey uses those ramp-up curves to illustrate the difference between hitting the ground running and kind of gradually getting up to speed.
Yeah, front loading is about making a conscious effort to get ahead of the curve, anticipating challenges, and setting yourself up for success.
What are the key steps?
Well, Hattori outlines 4 steps. First, understand the objective. What are you trying to achieve? Second, create a storyline and a work plan. Like, how are you going to get there? Third, get your questions answered early. Don't wait till the last minute to clarify things. And fourth, do your due diligence on your team members. Yeah, who are you working with? What are their strengths and weaknesses?
That's a really helpful framework. Now, this next principle is a bit unexpected. Smile when you are under stress. Sounds counterintuitive, but Hattori argues that smiling, even in challenging situations, can help you maintain composure, reduce tension, and even improve interactions.
It's not about faking happiness. It's about using a smile as a tool to regulate your emotions, to influence those around you. And there's actually research on this. Smiling can reduce stress hormones, lower blood pressure. It can even boost your immune system.
Wow, I didn't realize there was science behind it. So it's not just about looking friendly. It's about actually shifting your internal state.
Exactly. And it can be surprisingly effective. Hattori tells a great story about a consultant dealing with a really frustrating DHL incident, remember? The customer service agent stayed calm and pleasant, and ultimately that positivity diffused the whole situation.
That reminds me of times when I've encountered, you know, difficult people. Whether it's customer service or a colleague, if they're able to stay calm and even smile, it almost disarms you. It makes you want to de-escalate.
It's like a mirror, right, reflecting back a sense of calm.
Exactly. Now, this next principle is all about pushing boundaries. Go beyond your self-perceived limit. Hattori tells the story of Tina, a McKinsey project leader known for her unwavering determination.
She's tough.
She emphasizes that developing a strong will is crucial. But how do you actually push past those limits?
It's not about being reckless. It's about taking calculated risks, building your resilience, and seeking support.
Okay, so how do you do that?
Well, Hattori outlines a three-step process. First, develop your willpower. Believe in yourself. Believe in your ability to achieve great things. Second, take incremental action. Break down your goals.
Into smaller steps.
Exactly, achievable steps. And third, reach out for support. Don't be afraid to ask for help.
From mentors.
Mentors, colleagues, friends, whoever can provide support and guidance.
That makes sense. It's about being strategic and intentional about pushing your limits, not just blindly charging ahead. Okay, this next principle might sound a bit negative at first, but it's actually quite practical. Always imagine the worst-case scenario. Hattori connects it to playing poker.
Sometimes you have to play not to lose, right?
Right.
It's not about being pessimistic. It's about being prepared.
So by anticipating potential problems, you can actually reduce anxiety.
Exactly. And you can improve your decision-making. Instead of worrying about what might go wrong, you're actively planning.
So you're turning anxiety into action. Interesting. Do you use this principle in your own work?
I do, actually. Whenever I'm starting a new project, I always take some time to think about the potential risks. What could go wrong? How would we handle those situations? It just helps me feel more prepared, more confident.
Now, this next principle is one that I think we can all relate to, and it's often overlooked. Start following up. Hattori stresses the importance of meticulous follow-up, whether it's with clients, colleagues, or even just personal tasks. He even has this whole note-taking system for tracking to-dos.
It's about demonstrating reliability, building trust. It shows that you're attentive, you're responsive, you're committed.
You're not going to let things fall through the cracks.
Right, and it can make a huge difference in your relationships and your reputation.
I'm a big believer in follow-up, but I'm always looking for ways to improve my system. What are some tips for effective follow-up?
Well, first, make sure you're capturing all the necessary information. When you make a commitment to someone, write it down. Any relevant details, deadlines, next steps, all of that. Second, use a system that works for you. To-do list, calendar reminder, note-taking app. Third, be proactive. Don't wait for people to remind you. Reach out to them, confirm next steps, offer updates. And finally, be persistent. Don't give up after one follow-up. Keep following up until the task is completed or the issue is resolved.
Those are great tips. I especially like the idea of being proactive and reaching out to confirm next steps. It just shows that you're on top of things.
And you value the other person's time.
Exactly. Now, this next principle is one that I think a lot of people struggle with, including myself. Push back with less emotion.
Oh, that's a tough one.
Hattori emphasizes the importance of disagreeing effectively, advocating for your ideas, and understanding when to push back, all without getting defensive.
It's a critical skill for anyone who wants to be heard, to be respected. It's about being assertive but not aggressive. Express your opinions clearly and calmly and be willing to listen to and consider other perspectives.
It's that balance, right? Standing your ground but being open.
Exactly. So how do you push back effectively without getting emotional? Well, first, understand the other person's perspective. What are their concerns? What are their motivations? Second, focus on the facts. Focus on the data. Avoid making it personal or emotional. Third, be clear, concise in your communication. Don't beat around the bush.
Just get to the point.
Exactly. And fourth, be willing to compromise. You might not always get your way, but you can often find a solution that meets everyone's needs.
That's really helpful advice. I think a lot of us, myself included, tend to get defensive when we feel like our ideas are being challenged. But you're right, disagreement isn't always a bad thing.
It can lead to better solutions.
If we approach it constructively.
Exactly.
Yeah.
See disagreement as an opportunity for collaboration, not conflict.
Now, this next principle may seem a bit unusual, but it's quite insightful. Be flexible on the perception of your passion. Hattori challenges the idea that passion has to be this grand, all-consuming force.
It doesn't have to be like this huge thing.
He argues that passion can be found in many forms, even in seemingly mundane tasks, as long as they provide a sense of purpose.
Yeah, it's about recognizing that passion isn't always obvious or predetermined. It can evolve, it can be found in unexpected places. Just
Yeah.
be open to new experiences, explore your interests, and find ways to connect your work to your values.
It's not necessarily about finding your dream job or your calling. It's about finding meaning and purpose in the work that you do.
Exactly. And it's about recognizing that passion can be cultivated. It's not something you either have or you don't, it's something you develop.
I like that. This next principle is about finding inspiration, finding guidance. What would Marvin do? Find your role models.
Oh, that's a good one.
Hattori highlights the importance of having role models, especially when faced with tough decisions. McKinsey consultants often use the phrase, "What would Marvin do?"
Referring to Marvin Bauer, right?
Yeah, from his founding managing director, who emphasized integrity.
Professional standards.
Yeah, so it's about having a moral compass.
A set of guiding principles that can provide clarity and direction when you're unsure of the right path.
And it doesn't even have to be someone you know personally. It could be a historical figure, a business leader, or even a fictional character. The key is to find someone who inspires you to be your best self.
Right. And speaking of being your best self, the next principle is all about self-awareness and energy management. Know what gives you the most energy in your day. Hattori acknowledges that some tasks are just draining, while others are energizing.
So he encourages us to be mindful of our energy levels.
Yes. Prioritize the tasks that give you a boost.
And find ways to recharge after dealing with demanding situations.
Exactly. It's about understanding your own rhythms, working with your natural energy flow, not against it.
I like that, working with your natural energy flow. So how do you identify those energy-boosting activities?
It's different for everyone, but some common ones are spending time in nature, connecting with loved ones, listening to music, exercising, or being creative. Just find what makes you feel good.
What makes you feel energized, refreshed?
Exactly. And then incorporate them into your day.
Make it a routine. Okay, this next principle might sound a bit type A, but it's actually intriguing. Create a commitment plan. Hattori suggests creating this plan that outlines your long-term vision,
Midterm goals.
immediate objectives.
Yeah, and he suggests categorizing them into buckets like business career, family, personal health, friends, and network. He even suggests check boxes to track your progress.
I mean, it's about being intentional and accountable, right?
Exactly. By writing down your goals, breaking them down into steps, and reviewing your progress, you're more likely to stay focused.
It's about creating a roadmap for your life. What are some tips for creating an effective commitment plan?
First, be clear about your values. What's important to you? What do you want to achieve? Second, set SMART goals. Specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound. Third, break down those goals into smaller, more manageable steps. Fourth, track your progress and adjust as needed. And finally, celebrate your successes along the way.
That's really helpful advice. I think a lot of us have goals, but we don't always take the time to actually write them down and create a plan.
Right, and without a plan, it's so easy to get sidetracked.
Okay, get ready for this one. Go jogging to smell the flowers.
That sounds nice.
Right. Hattori emphasizes the importance of physical activity.
Especially jogging.
He says it's a way to slow down, clear your mind.
Gain perspective.
He's recognizing that our minds and bodies are interconnected. When we take care of our physical health, we improve our mental clarity, our well-being.
It's not just about exercise. It's about using that time to de-stress, to reflect, and to gain new insights.
And it doesn't have to be jogging. It could be any activity that helps you clear your head. Walking, swimming, whatever you enjoy.
As long as you're moving. Now we're diving into the principles for growing with others, starting with communication. The first one is, always memorize the first 3 sentences of a presentation.
What, first 3 sentences?
It's all about that strong opening, to engage the audience.
To establish credibility.
Make a memorable first impression. Those initial sentences, they set the tone. You're signaling to the audience that you're confident, you're prepared, you're worth listening to.
So what are some tips for crafting a strong opening?
Well, you want something engaging and relevant to the audience. Start with a thought-provoking question, share a surprising statistic, tell a story, anything to hook their attention.
Next up is communicate, using fewer words.
Being concise, being clear.
Hattori compares this to a pull sales approach, where you're piquing interest,
Drawing the listener in.
rather than bombarding them with information.
It's about respecting your audience's time. People are bombarded with information constantly, so you've got to be able to get your point across quickly and effectively. It shows that you value their time.
I think a lot of us tend to over-explain things.
Oh, I know I do.
We want to make sure everyone understands every detail, but sometimes that can be counterproductive.
Absolutely. You risk losing the audience's attention. It's better to focus on the key takeaways.
And present them in a clear and concise way. Now, this one might seem strange at first. Pause 3 seconds before answering difficult questions.
3 seconds? Really?
That's what he says. Hattori argues that this brief pause has several benefits. It gives you time to process the question, consider your response, and avoid a knee-jerk reaction. It also makes you appear more thoughtful, more composed.
I've never really thought about it that way.
Right. I mean, 3 seconds can feel like an eternity in a conversation.
It can.
But I can see how it creates a sense of anticipation. Makes your answer seem more valuable.
It's strategic silence.
Question more and talk less.
That's a good one.
Hattori points out that successful leaders are often more interested in learning than in showcasing their own knowledge. They ask questions, they listen.
They prioritize understanding over speaking.
He tells a great story about this entrepreneur who just kept peppering everyone with questions.
Oh, I remember that.
It was all about active listening. It was so engaging.
It really was. It's about intellectual humility. Recognizing that you don't have all the answers and there's always more to learn.
And I think it's so important for leaders to be good listeners.
It shows that you value input, that you're open to different perspectives.
Exactly. Turn no into yes.
Right.
This principle is about using suggestive questions to guide others towards the right solution.
Rather than directly correcting them.
Or shutting down their ideas.
Right. It's a more subtle approach to influence.
Instead of imposing your will, you're encouraging the other person to think through the problem.
And arrive at the solution themselves.
It's about empowering people.
Rather than dictating. Don't show half-baked output. This principle stresses the importance of quality control. Protecting your reputation.
Hattori emphasizes being selective about when you share your work in progress, making sure that what you present is polished, well-considered, and represents your best efforts.
It's about building your brand, establishing yourself as a reliable source of information.
And I think this is especially important in today's world where everything is so easily shared. You really want to make sure that anything you put out there is high quality.
Your reputation is your most valuable asset. Protect it.
Okay, now we're talking about connection. And it starts with a principle that's really about mindset. Find the best intent in people. Hattori encourages us to adopt a more generous and understanding perspective, even when we're dealing with difficult colleagues.
Even when it's hard.
He says it's about assuming positive intent, believing that people are generally good, even if their actions sometimes suggest otherwise. I think this is so important, especially in the workplace. It's easy to get caught up in negativity.
To assume the worst.
Especially when we're stressed. But when we make that effort to find the best intent in others, it really does create a more positive environment.
It can be transformative. When you start looking for the good, you find it.
That's a good point. It changes your whole perspective. The next principle builds on this idea of connection. It focuses on building genuine relationships. Learn team members, defining moments, and personal sides.
Getting to know colleagues on a deeper level.
Right. Understanding their stories. Fostering a sense of shared humanity.
It's about recognizing that your colleagues are more than just their job titles. They're people with their own stories, experiences, and perspectives. And when you take the time to get to know them on a personal level, it creates a much stronger bond.
I think we often overlook this in the workplace. We get so focused on tasks and deadlines.
And we forget to connect with each other as human beings.
Exactly. It doesn't have to be anything elaborate. It could be as simple as asking someone about their weekend or sharing a story about your family. Just taking a few minutes to connect on a personal level.
Just those little moments. Okay, this next principle challenges us to shift our perspective. Think of everyone as a helpful individual, not a resource. Hattori encourages us to move away from that transactional mindset.
Cultivate a spirit of collaboration.
See people as valuable contributors, not just cogs in a machine. It's about recognizing their talents, respecting their perspectives, and fostering a sense of shared ownership.
This is so important for creating a positive and productive work environment.
Absolutely. When people feel valued and respected, they're more likely to be engaged and committed.
Exactly. And it creates a more enjoyable work experience for everyone. And finally, a principle that highlights the importance of continuous learning.
Expanding your network.
Go out for a meal with interesting people every week. Hattori encourages us to prioritize these interactions.
Even if it means pushing back on work deadlines.
I love that. He's saying that learning doesn't have to be confined to the classroom or the workplace.
It can happen anywhere.
With anyone who has something valuable to share.
Be open to new ideas.
New perspectives.
New experiences.
Exactly. The most valuable learning often happens outside our comfort zones. Okay, let's move on to the next section, which is all about understanding. The first principle in this section is consciously gauge your people. This is all about becoming a skilled people reader.
Oh yeah, this is crucial.
Hattori emphasizes the importance of understanding your team members' strengths, weaknesses, motivations, even their personalities.
It's about developing your emotional intelligence, your ability to assess talent, understanding not just what people can do, but how they do it, what motivates them, where they have room to grow.
It's like taking the time to really get to know your team members, understand what makes them tick.
And then use that understanding to create a more effective and supportive work environment. Next up is assign team members meaningful tasks.
This emphasizes giving people opportunities to grow.
To develop through challenging and rewarding work.
It's not just about delegating tasks. It's about assigning the right tasks to the right people, ensuring that those tasks are both challenging and aligned with their interests and their skill sets.
You need to understand your team's capabilities.
And their aspirations. And here's a principle that highlights the importance of mentorship and development. Create followership through deliberate on-the-job coaching. Hattori stresses the value of investing time in coaching others, not just to improve their performance,
but to foster loyalty, shared values, and a culture of learning.
It's about seeing leadership not as a position of authority, but as a responsibility.
To empower others through guidance, support, and a genuine investment in their growth.
It's about helping your team members become the best versions of themselves.
Create a culture of continuous learning and improvement.
Now, this one is about delivering feedback effectively. Deliver feedback using positive criticism.
The sandwich technique. Praise, criticism, praise.
Right. Hattori explains how to provide constructive criticism without being harsh or demoralizing.
Balance honesty with encouragement. Acknowledge areas for improvement, but also highlight strengths and reinforce positive behavior.
You want to create a safe space for feedback,
where people feel supported and motivated to grow.
I think it's so important to deliver feedback in a way that's both constructive and encouraging. You want to help people improve, but you also want to motivate them. And finally, a principle that's often overlooked. Please your assistants and support staff. Hattori stresses treating support staff with respect and appreciation.
Recognizing their contributions and building those strong relationships.
It's about valuing everyone's contribution, regardless of their role or position. Understanding that a team's success depends on the efforts of everyone,
including those who work behind the scenes.
I think it's so important to treat everyone in the workplace with respect and dignity, regardless of their job title. Support staff are often the unsung heroes, you know.
They keep things running smoothly, they often have to deal with difficult situations, and they rarely get the recognition they deserve.
Exactly. By treating them with respect and appreciation, you're creating a more positive work environment.
You're setting a good example.
Okay, let's shift gears again and dive into the next section, which is all about structuring. The first principle is always prepare an agenda before meetings. Hattori is really big on agendas, even for small, informal meetings.
He says it's to ensure everyone's on the same page and the discussion stays focused.
Makes sense. It's about setting clear expectations, managing time effectively, and ensuring that the meeting is productive.
The agenda provides a roadmap, keeps everyone on track.
I've been in so many meetings that felt aimless and unproductive because there wasn't a clear purpose or agenda.
Yeah, I know, right?
Even a simple agenda can make a huge difference.
It can. Just a few bullet points outlining the key topics. Now, this next principle is all about productivity. Think of 8 to 10 things to do every day.
8 to 10. That seems manageable.
It does. He suggests creating a daily to-do list, focusing on outcomes rather than activities, and regularly reviewing progress.
So it's about being intentional with your time.
With your energy. Identify your top priorities and focus on what moves the needle. Avoid getting bogged down in busy work.
I think to-do lists can be helpful, but they can also be overwhelming if you try to do too much.
Yeah, 8 to 10 seems like a good balance.
It's enough to keep you busy, but not so much that you feel completely overwhelmed. Next up is a principle that's especially relevant in today's digital world. Proactively manage email communication using the 5D rules.
Delegate, delete, defer, deword, and deactivate. It's about taking control of your inbox.
Instead of letting it control you.
Free up time and mental energy for more important tasks.
I think we can all relate to feeling overwhelmed by email. It's a never-ending stream of demands on our time. But these 5D rules, they provide a framework for taking back control.
Absolutely. And it's about being proactive rather than reactive. Be in charge of your inbox.
Okay, so let's break it down. Delegate means assigning someone else to handle certain emails, like scheduling or responding to routine inquiries. Delete means getting rid of unnecessary emails, newsletters, spam. Defer means setting aside emails that aren't urgent and dealing with them later. Deword means keeping emails short.
To the point.
And deactivate means turning off email notifications or setting specific times to check email, even taking email breaks altogether.
Those are great explanations. Implementing these strategies can really help reduce the stress of email overload.
Okay, now we're talking about meetings again. Know your meeting modes in advance. Hattori suggests categorizing meetings into types, like update meetings, alignment meetings, knowledge-sharing meetings.
Problem-solving meeting.
Right, prepare accordingly.
Yeah.
It's about being mindful of the purpose of each meeting.
And making sure the format, the attendees, the materials, they all align with that purpose.
I've been in so many meetings that felt like a waste of time because there wasn't a clear purpose.
I know exactly what you mean.
By categorizing the meetings, you can ensure that everyone's on the same page.
That the meeting's a valuable use of everyone's time. Now we're diving into outcomes, starting with create the right end output image. Hattori emphasizes having a clear vision of the desired outcome.
For starting any project.
Making sure everyone's aligned.
That the end product meets expectations.
Start with the end in mind.
I think this is so important, but it's often overlooked. We get so caught up in the day-to-day tasks that we forget to step back and think about the bigger picture. What are we actually trying to achieve?
Exactly. What does success look like? Without that clear vision, it's easy to get sidetracked. You could end up with a product that doesn't meet anyone's needs.
Okay, this one sounds like a classic McKinsey tool. Create 4 boxes to dies. Hattori suggests categorizing tasks into 4 boxes. Important and urgent, important but not urgent, urgent but not important.
And not urgent, not important.
It's a classic prioritization technique. Helps you focus on the most important tasks.
It's all about avoiding those urgent but not important tasks that can eat up your day.
They really can. This next principle is focus on outcomes, not activities. Emphasis on results over effort.
He even suggests implementing a check-in and check-out policy, where teams start and end each day with a brief huddle.
To discuss progress and priorities.
It keeps everyone focused on the bigger picture, and it ensures everyone's aligned. It's also a great opportunity for coaching and development. The leader can provide guidance, offer support. Okay, time to get our voices heard. The next principle is speak up as early as possible. Hattori stresses the importance of actively participating in meetings, even if you're not the expert. He suggests focusing on things like keeping time, contributing numbers, summarizing key points, raising clarification questions, recapping next steps, and linking to previous experiences.
It's about demonstrating your engagement, your willingness to contribute.
Even if you don't have the most expertise in the room, you're still a valuable member of the team.
I think a lot of people can be hesitant to speak up, especially if they don't feel like they have anything profound to contribute. But those are really practical ways to participate.
Yeah, and it helps you build confidence. It builds credibility.
Hattori then introduces, create a minimalist presentation toolkit.
Less is more.
He suggests memorizing 6 core chart types that form the backbone of most presentations.
Emphasis on simplicity, clarity, visual storytelling.
Cutting through the clutter and presenting information in a way that's both engaging and easy to understand.
Pick the right chart for the right message. Bar charts are great for comparing different categories, while line charts are better for showing trends over time.
And finally, we have create an easy-to-use template for updates. All about streamlining communication, keeping everyone informed. Hattori suggests creating a simple, standardized template for progress updates.
Ensure consistency.
To make sure everyone's getting the same information.
It's about creating efficiency.
And transparency. And honestly, who wants to spend hours crafting elaborate updates? A simple template can get the information out there quickly and efficiently.
Exactly. Now we're moving into the final section of the book, going the extra mile. And this first principle is all about generosity. Give away knowledge and tools unsparingly. Hattori emphasizes the power of sharing your knowledge and expertise, both to help others succeed and to foster a culture of collaboration and learning.
It's about creating a more supportive and collaborative environment where everyone can thrive. I think it can be a bit counterintuitive, especially in a competitive work environment. We're often taught to hoard our knowledge and protect our advantage.
I understand that perspective, but I think Hattori makes a really compelling argument. When we share our knowledge, we actually enhance our own value.
How so?
Well, first, it strengthens our own understanding. When we teach something to someone else, we're forced to think about it more deeply, to organize our thoughts. Second, it builds relationships, strengthens our network. When we share freely, we demonstrate a willingness to help others, and that builds trust and goodwill. And third, it creates a more collaborative work environment. When people feel comfortable sharing their knowledge, it just fosters a culture of continuous learning and improvement.
I love that. Shifting from a scarcity mindset to an abundance mindset. There's enough success to go around. We can all benefit from sharing. Okay, this next principle is about getting physical, literally. It's called get rid of your physical barriers. It might seem a bit out there, but Hattori argues that our physical environment can really impact our productivity, our well-being. He tells this story about a project where the team was working in a cramped, poorly lit space, and it just took a toll on their morale, on their work.
It's about recognizing that, we're not just minds working in isolation, we're embodied beings. Our physical environment can either support or hinder our work. Think about your own workspace. Is it cluttered? Is it noisy? Is it poorly lit? These things might seem minor, but they can really impact your focus, your creativity, your overall well-being.
This is so true. I've definitely experienced it myself. When I'm working in a cluttered space, I find it much harder to focus. But when my workspace is clean, organized, well-lit, I feel much more energized, more motivated.
Exactly. And it doesn't have to be a major renovation. Sometimes just a few simple changes like decluttering your desk or adding a plant, adjusting the lighting can make a big difference.
Now, this next principle is all about thinking strategically. Ask second-order questions. Hattori is challenging us to think several steps ahead, anticipate consequences, understand how things are interconnected.
It's about moving beyond the immediate problem, considering the broader implications, asking those what-if questions, exploring different scenarios, anticipating potential challenges. You have to consider the perspectives of all the stakeholders and understand how your decisions might impact them.
So it's about taking a more holistic approach, a strategic approach to problem solving.
Exactly. Instead of just focusing on the immediate task, you're thinking about the bigger picture, the long-term consequences of your decisions.
He gives a great example of pricing decisions. A first-order question would be something like, why do you want to raise prices? But a second-order question would be, assuming the prices were raised, then what happens? What happens to competitors? Profitability? Other product lines? Does it still make sense?
Right. It's about going beyond the surface,
Yeah.
digging deeper.
Okay, this next principle is for all the note-takers out there. And I have to admit, this one's a bit counterintuitive. Learn to write fewer notes. Hattori argues that taking concise notes can actually improve memory, improve listening, improve prioritization skills. He shares anecdotes about McKinsey consultants who are known for their incredibly brief notes, and they're still able to recall information so accurately.
It's about being strategic, focusing on capturing the essence of the information. Don't try to transcribe everything. By forcing yourself to be more concise, you're actually engaging more deeply with the material.
I think this is a really valuable skill, but it definitely takes practice.
It does.
I'm so used to taking detailed notes.
Mhm.
I worry I'll miss something if I don't write it all down.
I understand, but the key is to shift your focus. Instead of capturing every detail, try capturing the key takeaways. What's most important? What's most relevant? What are you most likely to need to remember? And then use abbreviations, symbols, shorthand techniques to capture those points concisely.
And finally, we have prepare to renew your life. This speaks to the importance of adaptability, resilience, being open to change. Hattori argues that change is inevitable.
In both our personal and professional lives.
And he says that our ability to embrace that change, learn from it, adapt to new circumstances, it's crucial for success. He even connects this to the concept of creative destruction, where old ways of doing things are replaced by new, more innovative approaches.
It's about having a growth mindset, being willing to step outside your comfort zone, believing that you can learn and grow from any experience.
I think this is such an important message, especially today. Things are changing so rapidly. We need to be adaptable. We need to be resilient. We need to embrace new challenges.
And new opportunities. And it's about recognizing that setbacks, even failures, they're just part of the journey. The key is to learn from them, adapt our approach, keep moving forward.
Okay, let's wrap up our deep dive into the McKinsey Edge with the final principle. This one's all about defining your leadership style. Create your own profile as a leader. Hattori encourages us to identify our unique strengths, develop a leadership style that aligns with those strengths, and constantly strive for growth and improvement.
It's about being self-aware, understanding your strengths, your weaknesses, and crafting a leadership style that's both authentic and effective. There's no one-size-fits-all approach to leadership.
What works for one person might not work for another.
Right. And leadership is a journey, not a destination. We're always learning and evolving. Our leadership style will likely evolve too.
I love how he introduces those 4 dimensions of leadership.
Engaging people, thinking outside the box, getting things done, and venturing into new areas.
Engaging people is all about building relationships, motivating others, creating a positive work environment. Thinking outside the box, that's about being creative, innovative, challenging the status quo. Getting things done is about being efficient, results-oriented, holding yourself and others accountable. And venturing into new areas, well, that's about taking risks, exploring new opportunities, embracing change.
It's about finding a balance between those dimensions.
Developing a leadership style that's both effective and authentic.
And recognizing that our strengths, our weaknesses, they influence our leadership style. Someone who's naturally analytical, detail-oriented, they might be more comfortable in a role that involves planning and organizing. While someone who's more charismatic, more people-oriented, they might be more effective in a role that involves motivating and inspiring others.
It's so important for leaders to be self-aware.
To understand their strengths, their weaknesses, play to their strengths, and delegate tasks that are better suited for someone else.
Absolutely. Leadership isn't about being perfect. It's about being self-aware, being willing to learn and grow, and being committed to making a positive impact.
Well said.
Well, that was an incredible deep dive into the McKinsey Edge. I'm walking away with a ton of new ideas and insights.
Me too. What's so great is that it's not just for consultants or CEOs. It's for anyone who wants to improve their work, their leadership skills, and their personal lives.
I mean, who wouldn't want to be more focused, more productive, more effective? And the McKinsey Edge gives you the framework for achieving those goals.
It really does. You know, one thing that I found really valuable is the emphasis on mindset.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
It's not just about learning a set of skills or techniques. It's about developing a way of thinking,
A way of approaching challenges.
a way of seeing the world.
It really feels like Hattori is giving us a peek behind the curtain.
At how McKinsey consultants approach their work, their lives. And it's about adopting a mindset that prioritizes excellence, continuous improvement, a commitment to making a positive impact.
I'm curious, as you were reading the McKinsey Edge, was there a particular principle that resonated with you, one that you're excited to try out?
It's hard to pick just one, but I think the principle of asking second-order questions has really stuck with me. It's such a powerful tool. It's so easy to get caught up in the immediate issue, but by asking what if, by thinking ahead, you can make much more informed decisions.
I completely agree. And you can apply it to so many different areas of your life, too.
Absolutely. Work, relationships, everything.
I'm also really drawn to the idea of giving away knowledge and tools unsparingly. Such a generous approach. It challenges that traditional mindset of hoarding knowledge.
It really does, and he makes such a strong case for why sharing actually enhances your own value. It strengthens your understanding, builds relationships, creates a more collaborative environment.
Creates a win-win.
Exactly. And I think it's so relevant today when collaboration and knowledge sharing are becoming more and more important.
Well, I don't know about you, but I'm feeling inspired to put some of these principles into practice. There's so much valuable advice in this book.
There is.
And it's applicable to anyone who wants to improve their work, their leadership, their life.
Absolutely. I think a great takeaway is that you don't have to implement every single principle perfectly. Just find the ones that resonate with you that will be most helpful in your own journey.
That's great advice. Be selective. Focus on the principles that will have the biggest impact.
Right. And be patient. Developing new skills takes time and effort.
So don't be afraid to experiment.
Try different things, see what works.
Don't be afraid to ask for help.
There are tons of resources, books, Articles, podcasts, mentors.
Well, this deep dive has definitely given me a lot to think about, a lot of new ideas to try. I encourage everyone to check out the McKinsey Edge for themselves.
I agree. It's a book that can really change the way you think about work, about leadership, about personal growth.
Well, that wraps up our deep dive into the McKinsey Edge. Thanks for joining us.
It's been a pleasure.
We hope you'll join us next time for another deep dive into the world of ideas and insights.
It really does feel like we got a peek behind the curtain, you know?
Yeah, like how McKinsey consultants think, how they work, how they approach problems.
It's about adopting that mindset.
Prioritizing excellence,
Continuous
a
improvement.
commitment to making a difference.
I'm curious, was there a principle that really resonated with you as you were reading? One that you're excited to try out in your own life?
Ooh, good question. It's hard to pick just one, but I think the principle of asking second-order questions has really stuck with me. It's just such a powerful tool for thinking strategically and solving problems.
I agree. It's so easy to get caught up in the immediate issue, but when you start asking, what if, when you think a few steps ahead,
You make better decisions.
much more informed decisions. And you know what? It's something you can apply to any part of your life.
Totally. Work, personal relationships, everything. I'm also really drawn to the idea of giving away knowledge and tools unsparingly. It's just so generous, so collaborative.
It really challenges that traditional mindset of hoarding knowledge.
Protecting your advantage.
But Hattori makes a really good point about how sharing your knowledge actually makes you more valuable.
It does. It strengthens your own understanding,
Builds relationships,
creates a more collaborative work environment.
creates a win-win for everyone.
Exactly. And I think it's even more relevant today with how important collaboration is becoming.
Absolutely. You know, I don't know about you, but I'm feeling really inspired.
Me too. I
Uh,
want to put some of these principles into practice. There's just so much good advice.
It's really practical advice, too.
And it's for anyone, anyone who wants to improve their work,
Their leadership.
their personal life.
A big takeaway for me is that you don't have to do everything perfectly. You don't have to implement every single principle.
Pick what works for you.
Find the ones that resonate, the ones that you think will be most helpful, and be patient.
Yeah, developing new skills and habits takes time.
It does. So don't be afraid to experiment, to try different things, and if you need help, ask for it.
There are so many resources out there.
Books, articles, podcasts, mentors. Don't be shy.
Well, this deep dive has given me so much to think about, so many new ideas to try. I really hope everyone listening will check out the McKinsey Edge for themselves. Explore these principles
I agree. It's a book that can really change the way you think.
about work, leadership, personal growth. Well, that wraps up our deep dive into the McKinsey Edge. Thanks for joining us, everyone.
It was a pleasure.
And we'll see you next time for another deep dive into the world of ideas.